Hello, I'm Kate Davis, and this is Humor in the C-Suite, a show about how leaders use humor to create an extraordinary work culture. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Humor in the C-Suite. My guest this week is Russell Harvey. He is a resilience coach, facilitator, and public speaker. His purpose is to positively affect over 100,000 people by the end of this year, which he has already done, but how he did it is way more interesting. He did this by developing a client's self-confidence, providing clarity and direction to their role, giving them the tools and techniques to create the right conditions to apply transformation to their department, their organizations, and their company, and much, much more. Russell's had over a 20-year career learning in leadership and organizational development, and his overall style is influenced by positive psychology and a strength-based approach. When working with clients, he aims to strike the right balance between pragmatism, creativity, playfulness, support, challenge, and progress. And in addition to all that, he is on the chair of governors for the local primary school and a volunteer with Leeds Young Authors. He also runs a public speaking and confidence workshops in the schools. What isn't he doing? We had a great conversation. I'm so excited for you guys to hear it. So please welcome Russell Harvey.
Hello to everybody listening and watching. I am the resilience coach, not any old resilience coach. That's the business, the resilience coach. So I've specialized for about 16, 17 years in how to lead yourself and others really well in a volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous world, essentially. So, what it really means to be a resilient leader is my specialism. And the business was 10 years old this month.
Wow.
Which I'm really pleased about. And one of the dimensions of being resilient is having a purpose. So until last week, my purpose was to positively affect 100,000 people by the year 2025. And last year, I did it, essentially.
Wow.
So, I've got to find a new purpose now, essentially. Yeah. So, I'm in Leeds, north of England, love to travel, got a lovely wife. And just really love, supporting people around actually what on earth does it mean to be a resilient leader and try and make it as real as possible, as interesting as possible.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me. What happened to you that you had to be so resilient to become a resilience coach? Does something actually trigger it, or?
Well, so I think it was a long term thing. So in the learning and development world, I was made redundant 6 times. So, it's like not necessarily that, but I was made, So, and it was on the 6th time that I finally felt right to go out in business by myself, essentially. And I think throughout all of that career as well so I know I am biased towards the humans. I understand that systems and data and processes and technology is incredibly important, but I am biased towards the humans in the business. And throughout my whole of my working career, that always felt like it was a fight. It was a battle to go, actually, should we talk about the humans? And then also recently, so it wasn't as a result of many years of resilience coach, the last few years, my wife has been incredibly unwell. So I've had to support her, essentially.
Right.
Which that's not what you expect in life, but it happens. It happens to all of us. She's on a road for recovery. Where she'll eventually get to, who knows? But she's lovely and she's unwell.
Wow, life is messy. That's for sure.
Yes.
And it's so interesting to me how many people you really want to affect through being a resilience coach to the next 100,000 for sure. So, okay, so let's get into it. How do you use humor in your day-to-day life? You're British, so I'm assuming you just, you're sarcastic. But
Yeah.
But tell me, do you have a trick or?
I think it's in the moment. So it's like you find it's in the moment, really. You just find things or, sort of say, do you know what, I'm chuckling away now. Something that you've said has reminded me. So very much about the storytelling. And it is definitely, one of the many things that resilient individuals do as well, is that they have a sense of humor. And it is, it's unique to everybody. But sometimes instead of sort of asking the question, what's the opportunity here as a coach? It's like, what's the funny?
Right.
What is it that you're finding ridiculous right now? How daft and silly and stupid is it that we're in this pickle, that we're in this situation? What is it that you're just sort of going, well, my word, how on earth? And I have done a lot of work with our National Health Service as well, which is wonderful, incredible, and that has also been under the cosh, like all health services, for a long period of time. And you find that there is quite a dark humour amongst those as well. So there are some times when you sort of you're twitching to go, oof, well, yeah,
Yeah.
that is funny. Well, yeah, you've gone there, but whew, that's
So,
dark.
so when you're coaching, how do you incorporate humor into their leadership style, or how do you encourage that?
Well, yeah. So one of the things I do is around positive psychology. So I use a psychometric called strength scope, essentially. And so some people may find it easier to tap into the funny, depending on what some of their strengths are. Because if you've got people that are really stuck in sort of executive function thinking, then they find it a little bit more challenging to find the funny. So,
Right.
it depends on that essentially. So, were you about to say
And
something
when
there?
you, yeah, when you say executive style, what do you mean by that?
So, in terms of like they might be real internal thinkers. They might be critical thinkers. They might be problem solvers. So,
Right.
it isn't so really simplistically. If somebody's can tap into their creativity, idea generation, they find it easier to then think about the humorous side of things. So, because using your humorous part of your brain means that you've got to switch off other bits to switch on the humor. It's with its individual, it's trying to tap into that. But it's also as well when people are under the cosh. I say to them, your task is to go away from here and do something that's going to give you a belly laugh. It's I need you to find a release, whatever it is that works for you. I need you to go away and actually find the comedian or read the book or look at the video or whatever it is going to be. Talk to somebody, that has made you laugh, because then that's a release of the endorphins then as well.
Yeah, and a great pressure valve for sure. Uh,
Yes.
yeah. Do you find it helps your leaders with team cohesion, like when they're trying to build their teams?
Absolutely, yes. It
Yeah.
is. If you can't, because this is about humans coming together. We are social creatures. We enjoy spending time with each other. So, true, genuine social connection is one of the many pieces of research that shows that actually it's going to be part of a resilient team. So, this isn't about going to the pub and getting drunk.
Yeah.
It's about, okay, so you've got to enjoy spending time with each other. So tell us about your life's experiences. And then the leader obviously has to share some of their life's experiences. Oh, a funny thing happened to me on the way to work today, those types of things.
Yeah.
And I need to show that vulnerability to be able to get used to doing.
It definitely takes it from transactional to human, which I love,
Yeah.
which is what you're trying to get your leaders to do. In positive psychology, are they teaching humor within that sort of framework?
I'm not humor per se, Kate. No, I think
Right.
it really is a case of what makes us human. It's like we keep talking about that, and
Yeah.
laughter is part of it. And so you can go into different office spaces, and I know where a lot of it's in the virtual world, but when you walk around office buildings,
Yep.
I gravitate towards the team. There's got a bit more noise that's going on. It's got a bit more chatter. And then, when there's a bit of laughter that takes place, that's where I head towards and go, what's going over here? Because, because there's some good stuff that's happening, essentially, when there's some laughter going on.
Do you find it helps with curiosity and innovation and all those things when teams are laughing together?
Absolutely, yes. So I do a lot of creativity and innovation events and facilitation.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's like one of them is what would a 5-year-old do? So, getting groups of leaders to go access their inner child and act like a 5-year-old is good. I think one of them, my best ones, is that it was in a proper C-suite in a boardroom with all the sort of the walnut veneer around it, and I went for a comfort break, and I came back, and the MD of the business was sitting under his desk with his tie wrapped around his head, sucking his thumb, and I was just like, "You all right under there?" And he went, "Yeah, just." just accessing the inner child. Yeah. And it was like, wow, okay. Real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. That is crazy. Um, are there any other games you play with them that you can share?
Well, so the creativity one, you can do loads. So there's like a four-stage approach. Is when with the creativity one, the back explanation, the backstory to that is so often organizations will come to me and say, we need our people to come up with some more ideas. And most of the time, when I inquire with the potential new client about what do you mean, uh, unfortunately, most of the time, what they mean is, well, when we ask them for an idea, maybe once a month, can you just get them to give us some answers then? But the rest of the time, can you just get them to be quiet and get them on with their job? And I go, that's not going to work. Okay. You can't do that. So it's like, if you're going to bring me in, we have to understand that creativity and innovation has to be part of the day to day. That's part of it. And then in the part where we do the idea generation, so that is, what would a 5-year-old do? There's visit the animal kingdom. So it's literally just
Oh,
go explore what these different animals would do. And also, invite someone famous to your table and ask, so in this instance, how would Genghis Khan approach this? How would so and so approach this? How would so and so approach this? And it's in those where there's a lot of fun happening in the room, essentially at that moment in time, and then
yeah.
the art of the possible comes up, the openness comes up, and then the next bit is to go right by holding on to this idea of the art of the possible. We now need to put an element of pragmatism to this, but not to dismiss everything. It's like, let's just keep going with what's possible. What would you be brave with? And that works. That works really well.
That's so interesting because humor takes so much bravery, I find, to really trust it or
Yes,
to really, and it's not making light of the situation. It's really helping move forward in spite of the situation.
absolutely,
So,
absolutely, yes.
yeah,
So I
that's
don't know
great.
if if you've noticed the individual behind me.
Yeah.
So that is to try and make sure that I don't take myself too seriously. So that
Yeah.
phrenology, is old ancient bunkum theory
Right.
about literally certain parts of your brain, they had this bit in it. Okay. So I don't know what one of them would be. And they would say, uh, what's something like, oh, yeah, there's blandness. This part of the brain is blandness. So
Right.
it's rubbish. It's made up pseudoscience. So I have to make sure that a lot of the time when I talk about things that I have to double check whether it's like a neuro myth or something that we thought that used to be the case. But so that is literally over my shoulder, and it's just a bit of a sense to check of, actually, don't take yourself too seriously. Have you said something just then that you need to go double check the research, or you need to make sure that
Right.
you know
I
yeah.
love that. Always have a reminder. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Hi, it's Kate. I can't believe you made it halfway through the show. Look, if you or anyone you know would like to be a guest on Humor in the C-Suite, I would love to have you. So email me, kate@katedavis.ca. Do you find when you're in these coaching sessions that you're having to gauge your sense of humor within that context?
I think I know what you mean, but just explain your question a bit more.
Like, do you find that you're able to bring your sense of humor to those situations, or are you having to adjust because you're knowing your audience kind of thing?
Oh yeah, so on the individual coaching, that will come from all of the contracting
Yeah.
conversations that we've had about literally, this is me. You've obviously now bought my services. We've talked
Right.
about this, but it's now a case of like, this is how I'm going to work. This, how comfortable you're going to feel if we go off on a tangent somewhere and we explore something that might
Yeah.
feel a bit challenging to you, or different, or open-minded, or humorous, or curiosity. It's like, how
Yeah.
are you going to enable yourself to go with it, essentially? And my natural style, if I'm doing like leadership development programs and speaking at a conference, it is
Yeah.
I'm an upbeat type of individual, and so it's just you've got to be ebullient is one of the words that's used to describe me,
What was
essentially.
that word?
Ebullient. So it's like another way of
Ebullient.
saying, yeah, enthusiastic and
I like that. I
yeah.
just learned a new word. See,
There you
you
go.
Brits in your English language. Are you finding you find that it really, if you inject humor into those situations when you're dealing with someone who's so closed, when you're coaching them, do you find it helps open them up and like
Yeah,
what happens if they're just so have you had that happen where people are just so closed off that it's hard to get to them?
absolutely. Yes.
Yeah,
And then, so then it's about, again, the respect of who they are as individuals. So I'll go back to the strength scope psychometric.
right.
So there are 24 strengths, and you can be, it's about this word energy, and people take the psychometric and identify the significant seven. So if I am aware from that an individual is going to be a bit more internalized and reserved, then I utilize that a little bit more to see it from their point of view, to empathize with them, to try and then draw them out, you know,
Yeah,
essentially. And I had it with an individual a few weeks ago. We were talking about how them, and it was a family situation, so how them and their wife behave differently in certain circumstances. And then I said, I'm just guessing, but from your strengths profile, giving the example of like this happened in the home and your wife acted like this and you acted like this. So it's like if I was a fly on the wall, what I think you did was X, Y, Z, A, B, C, and you behave like this. And as I was partway through saying, I think that's going on, he started to laugh. And he started,
perfect.
he says, gosh, it's almost as if you were there. That's and then my wife came to me later and said, and she's like, oh God. And I said, well, I was guessing a bit, but somebody that's got these strengths, quite often in these situations, this is their standard approach. And he went, yeah, that's brilliant. That's just exactly how I was. Right. That makes more sense now. So that's how I managed to make it work in that instance.
It's amazing that it's that predictable.
Yes. Yes.
That's amazing. Like human nature itself, the commonality I find when people are using humor or don't, and the energy, I mean, that you were talking about
Yeah.
within their teams, I find it always starts at the top and trickles down,
Yes, it does. It does. I've had other
right?
instances though too, Kate, to go, well, based upon your profile, I think maybe this is what happened. And the individual's got a stony face and go, that's not what happened at all, Russell. And I go, okay, you tell
Right.
me what did happen.
Yeah.
So,
And then
most of the time,
eventually, does it make sense?
yes, it does. Yeah, it
Yeah.
absolutely does make sense. Yeah.
What benefits have you personally found when you've used humor in your coaching styles?
And so I suppose it's the feedback that you get,
Yeah.
I had a nice comment, actually from a coaching client some years ago. And what was the comment? It was really nice. He says, I go really deep with you, Russell. That was their feedback. He says, I have deeper conversations with you than I have with anybody else. And some of them are a bit dark. But he says, you make them light. So it's like they're dark conversations, but you make them light. And I think that was because with the sort of the playfulness with which I did it. So that was just some lovely feedback to get from somebody around. Actually, these are things I've not spoken about before, but the way in which I've spoken about them actually didn't felt good, felt okay, which was really nice.
It just really opens people up. I feel like I could share anything with you. So
Cool.
it
Thank
just
you.
turns into a therapy session. You're like, I need to
Well,
charge
Kate,
you.
what is it that you would like to talk
Like,
about?
I need to charge you for this podcast. Yes. Have
Not at
you
all.
encountered any like misinterpretations when you've tried to use humor with your clients?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
loads of times. Sometimes, sometimes it's been cultural, so different cultures, and so
Interesting.
and then So then afterwards, I will talk about that either with a friend or a colleague or my coaching supervisor, and I'm laughing because I'm going, "Oh, this happened," and I was in the midst of it, and I could feel that it was a total disaster that was
Yeah.
just happening in front of me. And then other times when we'd worked it out, what the miscommunication was, then suddenly there's a big burst of laughter as everybody understands what's gone wrong
Yeah.
essentially around it. But yeah, there are times when you can just say, we're going to have to just leave it because I can see um, that this is not working. There's no way. It's just we need to stop because it's
Take a
literally,
breather.
yeah, we need to take a breather because this isn't working.
Yeah. It's like, it's so funny because whenever I think of resilience, I think of, someone's had the shit kicked out of them. How do we get through it?
Yeah,
Right. And there's so much more to it, especially when you're in a leadership role.
totally. Yeah, yeah.
It's people's livelihoods, but it's not only that, it's their families and their children, and it just the
No,
ripple effect of that is huge. And the
and that's what I.
responsibility.
Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you. I was
No,
getting
no, please.
enthusiastic again. But that's what I really want people to understand when they listen to me and others talk about resilience, that part of the resiliency piece is about recovery from life's events, but it's also, they don't have to be always be negative. So there's this word adverse. And somebody came to me, so it was a lady, and there's a reason I'm mentioning that gender, came to me one time and says, does an adverse event need to be negative? And I went, no, 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 it doesn't. So tell me more, what do you mean? She says, well, it was not part of my life plan and I absolutely didn't want it. But recently, in the last few years, became pregnant, had a child, and it was incredible and it was wonderful. But it's like, is that an adverse event? And I went, yeah, it is. But she says, it's not bad. It was brilliant. It was just unexpected, you know? So an
Yeah.
adverse event is something that you have to recover from. But I'm of the view of leaders, humans, taking the choice to grow and build their resilience day to day so
Yeah.
that they can face into life's events. It's like, unfortunately, we don't know how resilient we are until something unpleasant happens. And I'm of the view, why wait? Just start engaging and growing your resilience now
How do you
because you'll have
do
a good.
that? How do you grow resilience?
With
Can
well,
you give us an example? I'm
Well,
so
yeah. So,
curious.
based upon research, so not a plug, it's just an answer to your question, Kate. So,
Yeah.
on my website, there's the resilience wheel, 7
Okay.
aspects to it. And when an individual makes the choice to engage with their wheel day to day, week by week, in a way that they find interesting, enjoyable, they will be building and growing their resilience. So, how they then face into life is from a very different perspective. So that's it, and yeah, so
Oh, I love
7
that.
aspects of the wheel built upon
And
research.
is humor within that? Is there any
So it's not a
or
specific,
levity or
it's not a specific part of it, but there's one aspect of the wheel which is about which is called meaning, which is about our internal storytelling. So this
Oh.
is where there's the opportunity to put humor into your storytelling. So this is about the meaning that we attach to events. So if I ask you, how was your day, Kate? You'll give me an answer. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it might include things of like, as a ridiculous example, it might be, well, Russell, I woke up this morning and, went on a car journey and it went downhill from there. And everybody I spoke to, it was miserable and horrible. So I just think I'm useless. So you have
Yeah.
attached that meaning to that moment and that muscle memory. So you pause and you think about, okay, if I was to explore that day again, how might I legitimately, realistically be able to actually pull some things apart? And if something unpleasant happened, then then you would think about, okay, so what if I was going to turn this into a humorous story? How might I? And that would be different for everybody. So it's probably the meaning aspect where you could do your internal storytelling and add in humor to it.
I love that. I just went through a thing and you're going to get this cuz as a speaker, I had a pre-event call for the company to decide if they were going to take me. And
Yes.
I wasn't at home. I was staying at a friend's. And as soon as I got on the Zoom, of course, the dog starts barking. I put the dog on the porch. Then all of a sudden, someone starts weed whacking outside the window. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? And then all of a sudden, my friend who's just playing starts to like do a fake striptease in front of me, and I'm trying to concentrate. Right, but I'm sort of giggling, and all I'm thinking, and I get off the call, I can't keep my thoughts straight. I'm at this point, I'm like giggling but upset, like I just blew like a gig for money. I'm like, and then I'm so traumatized. I phone a friend. I'm like, I need to practice my pitching because I should be able to get this no matter what's going on in front of me. And then they were supposed to like phone me on the Monday and let me know. Monday comes, nothing. Tuesday
Mm.
comes, nothing. I'm like, I lost the gig. And then Wednesday afternoon, they get a hold of me. We love you. We want to book you. I spent 5 days in my head
So there you
just
go.
beating myself up for. So, what's going on in your head really?
Well,
You
what I
know,
take from that is you need that friend. They need to do the striptease on every one of your calls, don't they? You know, can you factor that into your rates and say you need to pay a little bit extra because
I almost like just turned the computer around saying, look at what I'm dealing with. Look. Anyway, it was I was really traumatized and then I was fine. I was like, why? We just the story in our head a lot of times isn't the story that's going on.
absolutely, absolutely,
Yeah.
yes.
And staying positive and revisiting that. I love that what you said to really play with that.
Yeah. What? So within there, it's the word optimistic. I talk about more rather than positive. Okay,
Ah,
as a
yeah.
means to get into feeling positive. So the reason I really highlight this is I absolutely do not want anybody to do toxic resilience or toxic positivity.
Oh,
S-
what does that mean?
right. Yeah. So it's like, you might as a leader, you might legitimately ask the room full of people in the team, how are things, what's going on? And one of your members of the team might say, well, I'm a little bit worried about this, or I'm finding this challenging. If the leader then initially goes, so you just need to be resilient and you just need to be positive, actual finger pointing, it's like, don't do that. Don't do that at all. Okay. It is more about listening and empathizing with the person's concerns because optimism is grounded in reality. So we have to talk about the reality of the size and the scale of the challenge, but talk about it in a way. And it takes a lot of emotional intelligence and compassion and empathy and other skills, Kate, to be able to do this. But you have to have the conversation which is grounded in reality about if somebody's really worried about the size and the scale of the challenge, you need to talk about it and listen it and hear it. But what is also grounded in reality simultaneously is what's good about us, what's right about us, our strengths, our skills, our behaviors, our attitudes, our resilience, our experiences. And when you talk about those a little more and they're more in balance, then people feel hope and they feel positive. So you get to positive in a slightly different way, and it is more real.
I love that.
You're
Yay,
welcome.
Russell. That is so great. And that's something you can really take to every aspect of your life.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is. And it does
Yeah.
take an artfulness to be able to sort of because we don't necessarily want to go there at times, or we have to be
Right.
prepared.
Yeah.
So yeah, it does take practice, and it takes a real suite of skills to hold an optimistic conversation well, essentially.
Wow. Amazing. I love this conversation. Okay, so we're just starting to wrap it up and I always love to end Humor in the C-suite with this question. What is the funniest thing that's ever happened to you?
The funniest thing that's ever happened to me. Golly gosh. There's
I
so many
know.
to choose from, I think.
Ooh.
Uh, it's like, what do I want to share? What do I want to
Yeah.
share, essentially? Um, I think, well, yeah, it is that one at the conference of taking you're still wired up when you go to the toilet.
Oh.
And
Okay.
the conference hears it essentially, and you come back on, and it's like there's an awful lot of noise and murmuring and facial expressions and funny things. So I'm still feel embarrassed about it now, but it is also,
So
it
you
doesn't,
went to pee with the mic on and the
yeah,
whole
this is
audience
it.
heard.
Yes, yes,
Oh
it
my
is.
gosh. I have so much enjoyed our conversation. I
Thank you.
really have. Thank you so much for being a guest on Humor in the C-Suite. I feel like this has been such a different take on it,
Good.
to really look at the optimistic side, the positive psychology, and the resiliency that it builds, and all your wisdom over your years. I've just really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on. And I loved it too. So thank you very much.